The world has a new pope. And I mean the world, not just Catholics. He's American, and as usual, Americans are hyped.
I'm so shocked to have an American pope, but I feel so blessed that God has driven me here.
I was not expecting it. I even told somebody yesterday, said there's not going to be an American pope in my lifetime, and I was proved wrong. So
there's more unity, less disparage and division. So hopefully it goes well. I don't know too much about the guy, but hopefully it goes well.
When I came out of Mass, I started speaking to an Italian man while I was waiting for the bus, and he said, Americano, and I was completely delighted.
But only just for a moment, because now they're all eating at each other. And just like any other thing that starts out in America, it somehow manages to bring the rest of the world into it. And this time around, the conversation that they've managed to drag the rest of the world into is whether the Pope is woke or not. And honestly, it is weird.
But is he progressive in the vein of Pope Francis? That seems to be the great question, and I hear you saying the answer is yes. And why that matters is where he may stand and where he may lead his flock on issues as far and as wide as climate change, on DEI, on LGBTQ, on a whole host of issues. And we wonder, where will this new vision be for the Catholic Church?
Pope Leo XIV, whose real name is Reverend Father Robert Prevost, that's how he was ordained, is USA's first pope. He was born in Chicago. He's 69 years old, and he's a really cool guy from all, indications, especially if you go through his social media. His brother told the New York Times that if you love Pope Francis, you will definitely love Pope Leo XIV, because they were both friends even before the late Pope Francis was elected Pope. But there's this conversation that I find very weird, and it is about the Pope and his personal politics. And I'm using that word loosely here. People are asking, or people are saying rather, that the new Pope is woke. The new Pope is woke.
One hopes, I mean, when you look at his Twitter feed, he was for open borders in the United States and kind of took pot shots at J.D. Vance and the Trump administration. But look, all popes are going to support migrants, support the poor, support peace. That is, their heart goes out to humanity. That's with the job. Jesus would do the same. I don't know if he'd get so political, and that they're going to have to be careful.
First of all, as a Catholic, you are taught that the papacy is never wrong. It is literally one of the first things you learn in your catechism doctrine. The Pope is never wrong. But as Pope, he is not, up until the moment that I am releasing this video, the Pope has not made an official statement, as the Pope. So we're going to look at some of the tweets and some of the articles that he's shared in the time before he became Pope. For this conversation, we're going to assume that a retweet is equal to an endorsement, because I don't think that the Pope will retweet a content that he doesn't agree with, so just so he can go a few tweets down the line and start throwing subs at the person he just retweeted, like most of y'all do. So let's assume that whatever the Pope has retweeted, whatever article, whatever tweet he's shared in the past, he agrees with. And with that being said, I want us to take a look at this post that the Pope shared a while ago. Back in April 2025, he reposted a commentary that was critical of a 2024 Trump meeting with El Salvador President Nayib Bukele about the deportation of undocumented migrants at the time. And essentially, the tweet was saying, do you not see the suffering? Is your conscience not disturbed? And honestly, again, I want to ask you, it doesn't matter whether you're American or not. It doesn't matter where on the divide of immigration you sit on, whether you think that, people shouldn't be allowed to enter the USA legally, or, go in there undocumented, it doesn't matter. I want you to see how they are being treated and ask yourself, is it woke to ask that you are deported, whatever reason you did them, should be treated the way that you are treated, that should be deported the way that these people feel, whatever it is that you feel, and whether it's Salvador, and the rest of South America. If it makes sense that they've been treated the way the Donald Trump administration has treated them, because it makes absolutely no sense to me. So if you call that woke, I will call that compassion. But that's just me. That's just me. Before that, in February, he also reposted an article, and this is the one that has the right-wing MAGA group just mad at the Pope because he's criticized their golden boy, the heir to the MAGA kingdom. I'm talking about current US President J.D. Vance. And in this article, the Pope said, J.D. Vance is wrong. Jesus doesn't ask us to rank our love for others. And this is the particular quote that had the Pope, sort of very critical of Vice President J.D. Vance. He says, and now this is J.D. Vance, there is this old school, and I think it's a very Christian concept, by the way, that you love your family, and then you love your neighbor, and then you love your community, and then you love your fellow citizens and your own country, and then after that, you can focus and prioritize the rest of the world. That's what J.D. Vance said. And at the time, Cardinal Prevost did not agree with that, because what are you saying? Jesus said, love your neighbor as yourself. He didn't say, love your children as yourself, and then love your neighbor just a little bit closer to how you love yourself. No, he said, love your neighbor as yourself. And for people, J.D. Vance is Catholic, by the way, and I am Catholic too. And for people who claim to be conservatives and want to lead, using Bible-backed doctrines and belief systems, there seems to be this departure from the one simple message that the Bible teaches, which is love your neighbor as yourself, which is just compassion. And the Pope criticizing that statement has MAGA up in arms. And I don't get it. Does MAGA not want to love, or are you only deserving of love if you look a certain way or have a certain socio-economic background? It makes absolutely no sense to me. But, MAGA believes, and not just MAGA now, some other people who are not necessarily MAGA, but would describe themselves as right-wing leaning, or right-leaning, or conservative rather. They seem to call the Pope woke, and I don't get it. I honestly don't get it. Back in 2018, we also saw the now Pope reposting a statement from Cardinal Blaise Cupich, where he criticized the Trump administration's policies on separating families, right? We also saw that in 2015, he reposted an article from Cardinal Timothy Dolan titled, "While Donald Trump's anti-immigration rhetoric is so problematic." And if you've been following the news, I think that, with a little bit of empathy and compassion, you can tell that there is something not just humane about how the US president speaks of migrants. There's just something demeaning about it. And it's obvious. It's not hiding. He's not trying to, sugarcoat it. Like, he's just there. Like, it's right there in the public space for everybody to see and digest. And if the Pope criticizes that, does it make him woke? Or does it make him compassionate? Because there seems to be this belief that if you show compassion to people who are fleeing war, socioeconomic problems, starvation, gang-related violence, if you show love to the people fleeing all of these things, MAGA calls you woke. When really the question is, how is that not being compassionate? So, I honestly do feel some way about this conversation, but it also sort of, gets me to think of what the future will bring in terms of how the Pope will react to events that would unfold in the future. Because Pope Francis did get a lot of smoke for some of the things that he did during his time as Pope. For instance, blessing gay unions. Again, he didn't marry them in the Catholic Church. He only blessed them, gay couples, right? He was very vocal about climate change. He was very vocal about COVID-19 vaccination. In fact, they made a video.
Gracias a Dios, el trabajo de muchos.
La terrible pandemia del coronavirus.
Del norte al sur de América, apoyamos la vacunación para todos.
Vacinarse es una opción de...
You have to think of how this new Pope would closely align himself with the policies of the immediate past Pope Francis. And so if you find Pope Francis being woke, if you find Pope Francis very woke, maybe you should try a little harder to work on your compassion as a human being, because something might just be slightly off. If you've enjoyed this video, my name is Chika. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.